This is the Mortgage Crisis Update on 630 WMAL. Listen as Compliance Counsel's Dena Roudybush leads you through a fast-paced half hour of expert advice designed to empower you and help you fight foreclosure. Now your hosts, Dena Roudybush and Rick Fowler.
Saturday morning update, 630 WMAL. It's time for another Mortgage Crisis Update from Dena Roudybush. She joins us periodically with news from the foreclosure front and some big news this weekend to report. Dena, it's always great to have you with us.
Oh, thank you for having me. Good to be back.
Dena with Compliance Counsel, and she has been representing numbers of clients in the whole mess of the foreclosures and loan modifications. She's been very successful in reversing a number of foreclosures, and the big news that came out Thursday was an interagency report and enforcement by the Office of the Comptroller of the Currency, the Office of Thrift Supervision, and the Federal Reserve Board. They announced that they have taken enforcement actions against 8 national bank mortgage servicers and 2 third-party service providers. The reason? Unsafe and unsound practices related to residential mortgage loan servicing and foreclosure processing. This is a big story, Dena.
It is. It really is. And, you know, for those of us who are dealing with this on a daily basis, what this does really is confirm what we've known all along. This interagency study, they put together, studied the major servicers, 60% of all the mortgage servicers in the industry, and their study took place between January 1 of 2009 up until December 31 of last year. And again, what they found doesn't surprise us, but it sort of resonates what we've been saying in the industry and what our lawsuits are based on: unsafe and unsound practices, and they're all related to both the foreclosure process and the loan modification process for homeowners. Specifically when we're talking about the foreclosures, we've had shows on this before, cutting corners, sloppy paperwork or missing paperwork, and the servicer still trying to push the foreclosure through the process. But now we have a lot more scrutiny in the last 6 months. But now with this interagency review, we have specific enforcement actions against the servicers, and when we're not just the foreclosures, but now they've gone in and discussed specifically the loan modification process. The biggest problem that we've found are homeowners are going through the loan modification process. They're making their payments, and when I'm saying making the payments, these are payments under their modification plan, whether it's a temporary plan or what was reported to them to be a permanent plan. And the servicer not following through with it, not acknowledging it, or refusing to enforce what they've offered in the first place. And that's specifically what the interagency report has found. And with those homeowners, unfortunately, there's a dual process. While they're going through the loan modification, they may actually be on the fast track to foreclosure.
Dena, I was surprised to see the names of some of the banks. Citibank, HSBC, Bank of America, J.P. Morgan Chase, MetLife Bank, PNC, Wells Fargo, U.S. Bank, and MERS Corp. MERS, a company that you've spoken about a lot recently. All of these major institutions are under fire from this interagency joint effort of the Comptroller of the Currency, the Office of Thrift Supervision, and the Federal Reserve Board. These are the biggest names.
They are the biggest names, and as I said, the study included the 5 largest mortgage servicers by activity volume, and included 14 other servicers, which accounted for a little bit more than 60% of all of the industry's total servicing volume. What that means is we're seeing the same occurrences, and I've said this before, we're not talking about a handful of servicers or a handful of banks or a handful of homeowners. The problems seem to be pervasive throughout the banks, and their predatory servicing or the lack of responsiveness to homeowners. One item I wanted to bring up that they found in this in the review was that there was not one point of contact for homeowners going through the process. And we found this with many of our clients, and we've experienced it ourselves. And homeowners are trying to, work out a loan modification. They take the time, the exhaustive efforts to try to work with the lender or the servicer that's working on behalf of the lender. They're getting mixed communication or misinformation. I have a number of clients that were told we're giving you a loan modification. They tell them the term of the loans, of the loan modification over the telephone, and when the paperwork finally arrives, months later, it's not what was disclosed to the homeowner, 3 months earlier. They could have made other plans. I mean, they relied on the representation of that lender, and that's how they're, planning to stay in the home. And at the end of the trial modification, or when the package finally comes, the servicer is turning around and foreclosing on the homeowner because it's not what the homeowner originally agreed to under the terms that were provided. So it's not just a handful of homeowners that we're talking about here on the radio in Northern Virginia, D.C., Maryland area. This is all over the country.
Dena, these are these huge institutions that we mentioned, and you are an attorney here in the Washington area, and you've had a lot of success going one-on-one against the big guys. Tell us a little bit about this settlement where it's actually a cash settlement in a wrongful foreclosure. How wrongful was that foreclosure?
This is one that I've talked about before, and it's finally coming to a head with opposing counsel and where we are in the litigation process. This is the case where MERS, and we've talked about this before, MERS is the mortgage electronic registration system that was established by the larger banks to essentially avoid the payment of recordation fees every time the mortgage loan was assigned. In this case, MERS had assigned the loan from my client from Fremont Investment and Loan to bank number one, and then a few months later attempted to assign the same loan from Fremont Investment and Loan to bank number two. And if you follow this chain from bank 2 down to bank 5, which ultimately foreclosed, all of those assignments were improper because the MERS did not have the authority to assign the loan in the first place. This is what's happening. It sounds almost unbelievable that a bank can foreclose on a homeowner without the authority to do so, without actually being the secured party, but it's happening. And this is one case of ours, and where the homeowner is just so fed up because, unfortunately, he was going through the loan modification for almost a year, and he's at the point where he doesn't even want the home anymore or modification. So we're looking at a cash settlement for him.
Dena's at Compliance Counsel, and if somebody wants to talk to you, best number to reach you on?
703-261-7097.
703-261-7097 for Dena Roudybush at Compliance Counsel. Their website is SaveYourHouseLawyer.com. Dena, it's always great to have you with us on 630 WMAL.
Great to be back. Thank you so much.